The Black Ops 7 beta is officially over, and if you dropped 100 plus kills or a nuke, comment down below. And if you didn't get one, no worries at all. Today's video is all about learning the difference between getting a 100 plus kill gameplay and getting a nuke. Not only are we going to get into the differences, but we're also going to talk about the strategies being used to be able to pull off 100 plus kills or dropping a nuke. So you're going to want to stick around for this video. There's going to be a lot to learn. My name is Alyus, and I've been a full-time Call of Duty coach for the last 4 years. So if you're interested in professional coaching, check it out in the description below. Now let's start with the nuke, because I truthfully believe no matter what skill level you are, you can 100% drop a nuke. All it requires is a game plan and some discipline. The gameplay you're watching right now is Toshin TDM, and this is where I dropped my nuke. And several times throughout the stream, I said constantly that Toshin is the #1 map that I feel most comfortable and consistent on dropping a nuke. Every time I play Toshin Overload, that's like the map I get close. Pause. So in a way, the game plan already starts off by finding a game mode and a map that you feel most confident on where you can drop the nuke. Now, I'm not saying you want to spend every single game backing out and joining until you get Toshin, but the point is I have a handful of maps that I trust myself on to get the nuke. Now, usually I recommend to play Hardpoint or Domination to go for this nuke, just because having the objectives force the enemies to focus on something rather than just kills. And not only that, but if you memorize the spawns, you can really put the enemies into a nice spawn trap where you can look for kills. But that being said, I would say in Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed, most of the sweaty players tend to not play these maps, so you could get away with playing against easier players on TDM or Kill Confirmed. Now, I'm not trying to say find the perfect concoction of getting TDM on Toshin against bots, but just playing the game long enough, eventually you will run into a lobby like this. Such as in this game, it took me about 15 hours of playing the beta to finally get a somewhat easy lobby like this. Now, of course, you could try to drop a nuke against sweaty players, but with wanting to just get this goal of getting a nuke, I sat there and I took my blessing of getting a TDM and I locked the hell in. I locked in by creating a game plan where I was going to maintain playing on this side of the map the entire game, just because it's very two-dimensional. The enemies can only be in front of me or behind me. It makes the game extremely easy, and with UAVs, I can constantly predict where the enemies are going to be and get those kills. Now, of course, the enemies aren't always going to hit towards this section of the map, so I do have 2 other points that I can get to spawn trap and be supported by my teammates, such as playing in this top room, which I believe is called Cat Cafe, and then the other one is called DJ or Club. And by going back and forth between these 2 spots and constantly looking at the UAV, I was able to find myself in a position where I can constantly get kills. And this is the secret to getting the nuke. Make sure you're disciplined. Take your time. Don't make any mistakes. For some reason, in this beta, I died so many times to a skewer because I'm out in the open. It did. And then look at that! Like, what? I'm in the one building that has a rooftop of windows, so I die off my streak again? Or I just get quick scoped by an enemy because he predicted me to push an angle. Are you f***ing kidding me? Excuse my language, but bro, this guy had no clue. Oh my God, bro. Or I also just get hip fired by an enemy, which that one ticked me off the most. I died so many times to people mantling, hip firing, and every bullet landing. How does that not kill him? How does that not kill him? How does that not kill him? Ah, dude, it's the hip fire, bro. It's always the hip fire. So because of that, I forced myself to be as disciplined as possible, where I tried to make sure I was only shooting the enemies in their back or in their side. And I was doing this by maintaining this portion of the map, calling in UAVs, and looking for the right moments to strike the enemy. Now, a very important thing about this map on Toshin is I always paid attention to which side my teammates are spawning on, so I would back up and play on that side to guarantee no enemies flanking me. Now, of course, this is public match and you're gonna end up getting flanked here and there. So I played extremely careful and I was playing several corners, but every time the enemies call in a counter UAV, I am grabbing a corner to play in a spot where I can guarantee a kill. I know this seems like a cringe gameplay, but at the end of the day, the nuke does not care what you did to get the nuke. Now, eventually this game was coming to a close, but because I had the UAV, I literally made sure I worked up this side of the map, waiting for a ping every single time, which whenever you have a UAV popped, it takes about 4 seconds to get a new radar ping on where the red dots are. So this is where I would say, look for those red dots, hold the pre-aim, push up a little bit, sit in a corner, wait for the red dots, push up a little bit, wait for the red dots, push up a little bit until you can find those kills. Now, another thing about going for this nuke is every time you peek an angle and the enemy is already looking at you, you might as well break the line of sight and don't even challenge that angle again. Focus on something else and then come back to it later, because the goal is that enemy who was looking at you, if they don't see you in another 5 seconds or so, they're gonna look at something else, and then when you peek, ideally you get the kill. And you can see a few times in this game where I almost died, and I sat there and I wanted to re-challenge, but I said, no, I need to discipline myself. I need to get this nuke. Now, yes, there are nukes out there where people could just run around the map and just hip fire, do some crazy movement, and there are people who speedrun nukes, but my point is, I believe the nuke anybody can get. All it requires is a game plan and some discipline. Now, the differences between getting 100 kills and dropping a nuke are a little bit different, where I would say dropping a nuke, you want to play more disciplined and play safe. But when you're playing for 100+ kills, you want to play more aggressive and gamble a little bit, right? Go for some risky plays. High risk, high reward. Now, you still want to have a game plan when going for 100+ kills. And the main reason why is because you want to make sure you are able to get kill streaks in order to get 100+ kills. I personally would say the HKDSs and the attack helicopter are currently the best kill streaks, just because it allows you to still run around the map and shoot. And I would say continue using the UAV, because every time you get 4 kills or 5, I'm not sure which, you can pop the UAV and see red dots on the map, which in return, play your life, play discipline, look for these kills. And if you get these kills, you can get your HKDSs and your attack helicopter, allowing you to get even more kills. Now, Blackheart is a little bit more of a mixy map, but one specific thing you can see I'm doing is I'm trying to stick to the outside of the map majority of the game, and it's allowing me to run into a lot of long range or medium range gunfights. But if you had an SMG, you could totally play, you know, the middle of the map, or like hug the walls on the inside rather than the outside, and that can put you in a lot of close range fights. But I do find that going for nukes and going for high kills, the AR is usually the best, just because if you have your gun up and ready and these enemies are wall bouncing, they are not gonna outgun an iron. And you can see by doing this strategy of going around the map in a big circle, there are moments where the enemies are literally spawning in front of me, and I'm able to shoot 2, 3, sometimes 4 enemies in their side or in their back, allowing me to get a free 5-piece and get closer to that nuke. Of course, I could maintain this position and look for more kills, but usually if I'm going for a nuke, I'm going to back up and play for the nuke with my teammates. But if I am playing for kills, I could stay pushed out, stay in this position, get as many kills as possible. I would say try to be disciplined to get the kill streaks, just because getting those kill streaks again means more kills. And as you see, I think I popped the HKDSs, I think at least 3 times throughout this game. And it makes getting 100+ kills pretty easy. Now, if you guys had any questions about the class setup, we can go ahead and go over that right now. And I would let you know that honestly, the weapon you're using really doesn't matter. Of course, if you have a sniper, it is gonna be harder. But in terms of like main ARs and SMGs, they're all pretty balanced as of now. I find it easier to just run a AR like the MXR or the M15, because it allows me to keep my distance. And if I need to get behind cover, ideally I have enough time to react. And because the enemy has so much distance, they're more than likely gonna miss some bullets. Unlike a close range fight. In a close range fight, you kind of gotta win it or you're dead. Which again, there's nothing wrong with close range gunfights. It just makes the game a little bit more interesting, and it's a different play style. But I would say if you wanted to go for high kills, I would recommend the SMG. And if you want to go for a nuke, I would recommend the AR. There is one attachment I really need to make sure everyone runs, and that would be the suppressor. You could use the monolithic suppressor and get that extra damage, but I will say that normally just the regular suppressor is the best. And the only reason why is just to make sure that there is no red dot ping when you shoot your gun. If the enemies see your red dot, it just makes the game that much harder where they can predict where you're gonna be. And if they also know that there's a red dot on a certain part of the map that hasn't died yet, they're gonna be influenced to go over there and try to kill you off of your streak. Again, I would recommend running the silencer, but there is an alternative. If you wanna run a different attachment, you can, because we do have counter UAVs. The counter UAV is one of the most important kill streaks because it prevents the enemies from seeing where you are on their minimap. And even if they have hunter's instinct, they still can't see you with a counter UAV. Speaking of perks, the perks I ran are pretty basic, but the first perk I ran was lightweight, just so I have more movement speed. I ran looper, so I can call in a UAV and a counter UAV over and over again. And then I ran dexterity because dexterity is a crutch. Everyone needs to run dexterity in Black Ops 7. With these 3 red perks, I do get the Enforcer Specialist, which allows me to heal up after every kill. Now, I did run perk Greed, so I can throw on Ghost, so I can avoid all the enemies from seeing me as a red dot, but I learned that Ghost does not counter Hunter's Instinct. Therefore, I ended up switching it over to Ninja, and I kind of just spam called in counter UAVs. Following the perks, I did run a Stim Shot just to have that extra health if I was getting pushed. I had a Semtex, which it's just throwing a grenade, nothing special. And finally, I had the Field Upgrade. The Field Upgrade is what allowed me to maintain ammo throughout this entire game. And honestly, the ammo crate restocks pretty quickly, so I never had an issue with running out of ammo. Now, this does conclude the video, but I hope some of the advice does help you guys moving forward. And if you guys have any questions, please hit me up. I'm always happy to help. Other than that, I appreciate all the support. Please feel free to check out my coaching if you're interested in the description below. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. And peace.